Rena, do you see it as an addiction?
So this is what I think. I think that so it's not been termed an addiction in terms of in medical vernacular. They call it problematic porn use because there hasn't been a clear definition in terms of addiction, right? But I would say that I think that there are certainly people who have this experience, but there's certainly many, many people who use pornography and don't develop this tolerance. And maybe it's more common in younger people because they're getting access to it sooner and more often. And that has yet to play out. At least I tend to see older patients. And so that has yet to play out in older generations. But I would say that I think there's many people who use it fine and don't have an issue. And so I think that while these issues do exist, there's also a whole bunch of other things that are ongoing in society right now that may make it more difficult for people to connect and for people to feel intimacy with people because it's very difficult. Currently, more and more people are not getting married. More and more people are choosing to stay single for a variety of reasons. I don't think porn is the only factor there. I do think it is something that people can control. And so they feel like, okay, if you feel like you have a problem with it and you can control pornography, that allows you to feel like you have control in one area of your life, that then that control can potentially improve other areas of your life. So I think that there is correlations here, but I think it's very complex. I think the way it affects our brains is very complex as well. And like dopamine is one way to describe it, but there's different sensitivities in how our brain responds to the same stimuli, right? The way I watch pornography, the way you watch pornography, the way any one of us watches pornography, our brains will respond in a different way because our receptors are either more sensitive or less sensitive. And there's no way to really test that on an individual level.
One of the things I found most interesting when I had the first conversation on this podcast about pornography is my team went out and looked at a couple of tools which pull search data. So what are people searching on the subject? Mm-hmm. And the number one most searched term was, how do I quit pornography? Mm-hmm. And that's quite an interesting thing because there's a certain desperation to that question. Mm-hmm. Going to Google to ask Google how you quit a behavior, that makes me think of it in the context of an addiction.